Yes, we have benefited it from something like this event that happened between the government and Twitter. Our messaging has never been about please leave Twitter and come here. Simple answer to your question is yes. We can survive without the kind of funds that we get from foreign entities, no matter which country that is. It's not so much about working with the government as it is, understanding the constitution, understanding the legal frameworks that have been defined to ensure that there's peace and harmony. So, we're going to abide by the law for sure.
You've spoken about how growth is not, very linear or very consistent over a period of time, and it has its moment of spikes. So in that context, in February, it's no secret that the center and your primary competitor, Twitter, had a bit of a spat over the issue of content moderation and on the issue of content takedown, etc. And at the same time, we've seen that, Koo app has sort of been like a beneficiary of that, whereas the Ministry of Electronics and other ministries and ministers have started using Koo app as the default app of communication. So, in what ways would you say that Koo app has benefited over the last 1 month with Twitter coming under an increased sort of like a glare from the center?
A couple of things, right, that you brought up. One is that, looking at Twitter as a competitor, I don't look at it as a competitor. And I'll explain to you why. I think that India faces a very unique problem statement, right? And what's the problem statement? That 90% plus of our population is not speaking or preferring to speak in English as a language, right?
Right.
It's speaking thousands of Indian languages, right? There are 22 official languages. There are over 50 languages with more than 1 million speakers, right? Now, you will see that these languages and the people who speak these languages are not well represented on Twitter, not because it's not a great product or something like that. It is just that it's not been their priority. If I was creating a global product, I would create a product in English just the way they have, right? Because I'm Indian, my co-founder is Indian, we understand Indian challenges, we speak Indian languages, I'm better able to identify with the nuances of language diversity in our country. Have we benefited from something like this? We're looking at targeting 500 million users over the next few years. We have got a spike of maybe 1 million and a half users. So for us, when we look back at our journey, this entire event is going to look like a little blip, right? It will not be a defining journey. It will not be a defining event in our journey. Yes, we have benefited it from something like this event that happened between the government and Twitter. I've gone on record saying that Twitter is really a product that as an entrepreneur, I really respect. They've democratized voice for the world. I'm a big user of Twitter myself, and I love the kind of people that I'm able to connect with, right? Taking forward the microblogging platform and Indianizing it for Indians who want to communicate in their mother tongue, we wanted to create something like Koo.
Right. Moving to the other issue that had come up recently, which was about the issue of investment. The larger, broader question that I sort of want to understand from an entrepreneur like you is that you've lined up a very impressive lineup of investors who've invested in Koo app, and you've said that Shunwei Capital, the Chinese company, was an early investor, and its stake is being bought out by other Indian investors. My question is, given the massive volume of investment that we've seen from Chinese investors in a large number of unicorn Indian companies and other large startups, etc. Is it possible for an Indian startup to scale up without international investment, given that's what it's been like over the last few years?
Simple answer to your question is yes. We can survive without the kind of funds that we get from foreign entities, no matter which country that is. Yes, in the past, a lot of the investments have come from Americans, from the Chinese. I think it's a result of the markets that they cater to. The markets there have seen what's happening in India today 10 years back. They are
Right.
able to predict what will happen when the Indians get access to a smartphone and to the internet,
Right.
right? So it's not just the funds that they bring to the table, it's the experience that they bring to the table saying, and I've seen this happen in the US, and 5 years hence, there will be a point where India will be ready for cab hailing, right? They would have said this before Taxi for Sure or Ola started, right? Because they had the other companies ready there. I think that India is getting there. I think there's a lot of support from the government. I think what's coming now from the government is a very clear intent that I want to move towards self-reliancy, right? I want a self-reliant India. I want to bring forth Indian products for India and Indian products for the world, right? It's a great statement of intent. A statement of intent like that clearly starts attracting even more Indian capital, saying that the bottlenecks that entrepreneurs had or industries had earlier, there's a clear intent from the government to keep removing those bottlenecks and make operations a lot easier. So I think yes, India is deep pocketed in terms of funds. There's a clear intent, and we'll see that coming out from larger Indian investors as and when they see Indian entrepreneurs proving successful business models out of small startups.
As has been reported, the government has been planning stricter rules to regulate social media platforms, which have so far not really come under a proper regulatory framework. And as you know, social media platforms are also classified as intermediaries. So as intermediaries, the government wants social media platforms to perform certain duties and have certain responsibilities in terms of moderating content. So one of the concerns has been that, excessive regulation of social media might lead to a chilling effect on free speech that you had spoken about, or also might lead to, excessive control over content.
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of related topics, right? I think one is the truth about some sort of toxicity that thrives on social media, right? Whether it's trolling, whether it's people being abusive, disrespectful, stuff like that, right? I think it's very important to bring about a culture around the products that we create to promote positivity, right? We've built in features where if you try to comment on someone's coup, there's a little line that says, please be respectful, right? So it's smaller nuances like these that you need to bring into your product so that from the root cause, you're not spreading any kind of negativity in the communities that you're operational in. Then comes the issue of not knowing who this person is, right? So the truth is that when people are masked, they somehow feel empowered to say anything to anybody, whether it's verified, whether it's unverified. If I were to meet you in person, I would never ever treat you the way I might have treated you online because you don't know me and I don't know you. And, we feel empowered to say anything to each other. So I think identification is going to be a very important pillar going forward, on social media in the world. I think the third point is that when you operate in certain environments, it's very important to respect the nuances and legalities of that country. Right? We are Indians. We understand the nuances of India. We understand the basic fabric of our community. It's made up of people that are very diverse in their preferences, in their religious preferences, in their backgrounds, in their contexts, in their languages. So it's a country of diversity that's been stitched together, right? There's a legal framework in the country that's there for a certain reason, that's there to maintain certain harmony and make sure that our differences don't become the reason for attacks. It's not so much about working with the government as it is, understanding the constitution, understanding the legal frameworks that have been defined to ensure that there's peace and harmony. So, we're going to abide by the law for sure.
Right, right. And just before I go, just one last quick question is about, the issue of bots. Now, say a new platform like Clubhouse has said that, we will not allow bots and it will only have humans. But social media platforms invariably have a large number of bots which serve certain purposes, and sometimes they help in amplifying, as you said, a lot of toxic negative news. And the other thing is, do you, in the moving forward, do you envisage, celebrities or influencers or people in general to sort of migrate from Twitter to Koo, or is that not something that, is part of your plan as such?
So two questions. One is about bots. The other one is about celebrities. I understand why someone would have used bots as a way of acceleration or amplifying certain messages. It's against us to have anything close to something like that on our platform. It just takes away the honesty and the integrity with which this platform was built, right? If we are ever aware of something like that, we nip it in the bud from the root cause. We'll use every technology possible to stop something like that happening. As far as celebrities are concerned, right, I can give you a simple example, and this is better understood in the context of India because you'll see a lot of Bollywood stars that are tweeting in English, right? But a Bollywood movie is made in Hindi. Why is it like that? It is like that because the majority is speaking, 55% of our country is speaking in Hindi. It's not like the Bollywood stars don't know how to make an English movie, right? So anything that has to do with the masses is always rendered, that experience is rendered in an Indian language. I think Twitter is one of the best products ever created that democratized voice, right? It is very important for the world to be connected. I am connected with a good part of the world thanks to what Twitter created. I am able to listen to what the President of the United States has to say. I'm able to follow my favorite Hollywood celebrities. I'm able to follow people who are subject matter experts who are not in India. Our messaging has never been about, please leave Twitter and come here, right? We respect that company enough to not have a message out there. What we say is that there's a large part of India that has not been able to participate in microblogging and open expression the way Twitter had envisaged. It's not happened in India. So our message is, please stay on Twitter. It's a great platform. You have no reason to leave that platform. There's a lot of global learning there. If you want to connect deeply with India, because there's a much larger India outside of what exists on Twitter maybe, please come to Koo, because you will connect with an audience that you may never have found on another microblog. Go deeper in India through Koo. Connect with audiences outside of the audiences you've been connected with. Connect with them in multiple Indian languages. Do that on Koo, right? So that's been our stance always.